I'm gonna start unmuting people here.
Thank you.
Except for the people that we're dragging this conversation on.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
I'm literally going to say that if like that woman goes off and harms herself or her kids, that's on Apple or Egg.
So,
both of them. They're both complete fucking morons.
Yeah.
Apple
why don't all you guys that want to go have a different conversation just go to the room? Eggbase is going to be unmuted, and this demon is going to leave this woman. And all of you people who don't care about spiritual warfare can go somewhere else. This fight is not over.
Dude, stop playing games. Stop playing. You know, go outside and touch some grass. Okay.
Yeah, let's discuss the Eggbase exercising the demon.
This is not conducive.
Craziest shit I've ever seen.
Unmute Eggbase. Lily, right?
Okay. Yeah, that was a great job.
Needs to stay muted.
Hey,
you can actually perform an exorcism.
No, I do want to ask a question to Eggbase, if that's okay though. Unless
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Right, fire away.
Yeah.
So, listening to Lily, it sort of sent me back to a day which I had an experience similar to her. But obviously I'm a Muslim, and what I saw was a guy sort of dressed as the way you guys present Jesus, telling me to do satanic rituals.
Yep.
And I'm just trying to ask you if you know any what that could mean or what you think
I do.
about.
The most common form, I'll tell you this, Rainey, the most common form in which people report demonic encounters is demons presenting themselves as angels of light.
There's a Bible verse supporting that. You're supposed to test the spirits, ask if Jesus Christ came in the flesh. If it says yes or no, there's your answer.
Yeah, and if you already,
my question is like, what authority did Eggbase have that he was calling on? He's not a Christian. He's not a Muslim.
Yeah,
like,
that's
what
a good point.
was it?
Excellent point. Yeah.
So wait, Nelson, I need to call on the name of my church to have authority. What the fuck are you talking about?
If we're gonna play basketball, we're gonna play basketball by the rules of basketball. So what authority were you calling?
Yes, the rules of basketball is the law of God. You don't need to be a fucking Southern Baptist to know the laws of God.
That's not true.
So, Eggbase, what's your worldview? Are you a Christian? What gives you the power to Eastern Orthodox?
Okay, guys. So here's what we're gonna do. This channel is becoming too large, egg-based, and
too large, huh?
Yeah. So anyone interested in discussing the science of exorcism,
you don't understand.
Let the moderator speak. Excuse me, the moderator is speaking. Be quiet. Yes. Okay. Go.
Please move to the religion channel now. I'm sure that half the channel will go there, okay? So
Sure
if you're interested in discussing exorcism, go to the religion channel.
Isn't Mr. Batman in there?
No, he's not there.
Go to Pure Religion. Go to
there,
Pure Religion,
sure.
or go to Theist Experience, or go to somewhere else where the
whatever. We'll go to religion.
Can you do me one favor though?
Don't forget to shut the door behind you.
Hey, buddy, don't listen.
Is this Pure Religion?
Hello. I'm going to tell you something. They're going to drive me.
Lily, you need to go to the channel Pure Religion, and you can discuss it in there, okay? Thank you.
Yeah,
No, Roy, go off Discord. Apple, you're a dumb piece of shit.
Jesus.
Be civil, please. Be civil. I think.
A few moments later.
Apple is a piece of fucking shit.
Jay Hind.
Who? Apple Dog is the best moderator on the server. Let me tell you that much. All right.
That was something else, man. I never had this much fun on Discord in a while. I gotta say, man. Congrats.
That's the first time.
Exorcism is so much fun, dude. Exorcism, oh my gosh, it's so much fun.
It's the first time I've had somebody come in and tell me like,
that was hilarious.
Oh yeah, this channel's getting too large, and too many people are listening to you perform an exorcism. So now we're gonna have to like close this channel down, and you're gonna have to leave.
Oh man, gotta love it.
It's like yeah.
So there's you can't hate on
people are interested in this subject.
You can't hate on my boy Eggbase.
So my question here though is like, was that harmful in the sense of like, if I'm looking at this from a non-theological point of view, is playing into her delusion, was that a good thing or a bad thing? Because I am not a psychiatrist and I don't know.
Probably super bad, dude. Yeah, it's probably super bad.
How do you know it wasn't a demon? That's your assumption, right?
I wouldn't do that shit. Right. That's for sure.
Yeah, so I'm starting off with so I'd like to know. So here's my little two lines I'm going down. If it's a case of even if it's a religious experience, but it's still good psychologically to play into this because you're leaning into her belief system to try to pull her out of it, and that's a good thing. Okay, it's like that. If you truly don't believe it's a demon and doing this is a bad thing, that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Wait, hold on. Here's the inverse. Here's the inverse, though.
I don't want to speculate.
If it's
on what
real,
Eggbase is thinking,
then
so I just want to let himself explain.
there's a lot of risk in it.
Well, Eggbase, could you explain your thought process? What was going through your head when you thought of this woman? What would you think, and why did you decide to do what you did?
Sorry, I'm responding to Belisarius telling me that I need mental health help.
I missed the entire thing.
So I'm
Yes, you
studying to be a psychologist, and I was actually a priest in training for a long time. So the interesting thing about this is the number of people who came into the room and instructed me that, like, this was some sort of very well understood mental health phenomenon, and like because everybody just immediately defaults to, if there's somebody exhibiting a behavior we don't understand that seems crazy, we need to send that person to a psychiatrist, and anyone who does something other than that is enabling their delusions. And it's a really unhealthy way to view other people.
I think so, actually.
So having met a lot of people who have been through this same thing, and like varying degrees of seriousness. Like I had a woman vomit maggots during an exorcism. And like, are you going to tell me that like a psychiatrist would have like, gone in there and medicated the maggots out of her stomach with lithium or something? So I don't understand these people who have this limited worldview about spirits. They're going to rather than being respectful about it, they're going to deliberately, like, obviously demean and be rude and disruptive and
So if someone
judgmental.
throws up maggots, that's how I know if they're possessed by a demon?
Demons are real. Demons are absolutely real.
So how do you differentiate between
So just let me put it this way. I'll tell you, I heard a woman in
Most
pain.
mental illnesses.
She's totally in
Yeah.
pain.
I
And whatever
no
makes her
longer
feel
have text
better.
permissions on this server. I've been text muted.
So Eggbase, is that a good indicator for someone that's possessed? Is if they have maggots inside of them?
Yeah, I've been muted for some reason. So
You're
not muted. We can hear you.
The fact that psychiatry is such a failed field, and that psychologists and psychiatrists will have a miserable time like actually treating their patients, and that we have like the highest rates of depression and anxiety and mental health illness in the Western world. Does anyone like not see a connection between that and the fact that we're trying to like sort of treat maybe a problem with like the wrong diagnosis or the wrong tool? I mean, look, I'm not saying this woman was possessed, but hey, it's proof that it could be a demon. You never fucking know. Demons are real. We've documented this.
yeah, so I'm loving. If you guys have some time, read the
Can
general
someone
chat.
mute Doge?
Yeah, if you guys have some time, listen to or read the general chat, because it's literally just people in there talking about how unqualified everyone is to be like talking about this. The interesting thing is that like she obviously was manifesting demonic possession. So like you could make an argument that she's very well read in demonology. You could make that argument as like, oh well, this is obviously just like an edgy person who has schizophrenia and has read a lot of books on demons. Like maybe you could make that argument. But why is that person then presenting me with like novel spiritual information that I have heard presented from other demonically possessed individuals that does not exist in literature, that does not exist in something you could read on the internet? Like these people will start telling me about current events in like hell, and they will tell me the same stories. So I understand that to an outside person who like was just, extreme amount of faith in psychiatry, they would just say like, oh, well, there's no way that could ever possibly happen, and you're just lying, and you're all sorts of mean words. But I would encourage you to understand that you're literally just saying a bunch of mean shit because you don't know what I'm saying. You don't understand what I'm saying, so rather than try and understand it, you're just going to call it ridiculous and insult me. And that's fine. Like, I'm used to it. It's what you do when you commit to being a spiritual person, especially on the internet, on Discord, on an atheist server. But I'd encourage you to be less of a closed-minded dick, Like being a closed-minded dick is just not a good way to go through life.
Okay. This is not an atheist server. I just like to throw that out there. This is not an atheist server.
Oh, it certainly seems to be, considering that the only basis that a senior moderator had for coming in and muting me was that he doesn't think God exists. So
to be
yeah,
fair, though, at the beginning, I thought.
To be fair, the reason why we ended the conversation is because apparently she's been coming in here drunk for quite a few days and causing trouble. It's not. So the thing is, I was listening very carefully to her. She may have been trolling. So the word came down from high, and it was over.
Wow, that's
To
the
be
most
fair, though,
sophisticated.
at first, I thought it was an exorcism. I really did. I really did at the beginning think it was an exorcism, but then the more she started talking, the more I realized that I don't think this is an exorcism
well,
anymore.
I think at some point. So I'm sorry, but from my perspective, something definitely came out. So I think like she's definitely all kinds of fucked up. But you remember at the beginning she was talking about having two entities inside of her.
Is that the official psychological term, by the way?
And then
all sorts of fucked up.
No, what I mean is that she has a lot of paranoid delusions about spiritual onset and probably has a significant degree of religious obsessive compulsive disorder. But I'm not going to provide an official diagnosis. My point is simply that this person obviously has some outside mental health issues, but also had an instance of demonic possession going on. Those of you who were there right at the beginning, when I came in the room, the first question I asked was, how many personalities do you have? Now, somebody with like MPD or dissociative identity disorder would obviously say something along the lines of, oh, well, I have DID, or like, oh, well, I know of some, and like they have different names, or like, oh, I don't know how many there are. But the people who I look out for are the ones who say a number, and the number is usually 2. People who say 2, in my experience, are experiencing some sort of demonic onset. And that was all I was attempting to address. So yes, this person has outside mental health issues, but and I'm not attempting to address those, nor do I claim to. But people with trauma, people with mental health issues, people with substance abuse issues often bring demons onto themselves. So I catch all this fucking ridicule about like, oh, well, you're like trying to treat all. I wasn't. If people thought my claim was that I was going to go in there and like solve all this woman's problems and I had some savior complex about it, no. But this woman admitted that there was a demon that had signed a contract to occupy her body for the next like 54 years, and that exists. Like that's a real problem. It's like that could affect her life in all sorts of negative ways.
Well,
so
no, is that a contract?
One
When
of
she
the
said
interesting
that,
things.
Why didn't
about what she was
Why didn't
saying-
you address Omega? Why didn't you address Omega? Why didn't you?
Right, Maximo. So one of the fascinating things about what she said is that a lot of the things she said seemed to be stuff I've read in the Talmud or heard in Jewish shiur. And for her to know those things, okay, it clues me in that either it's real or she's Jewish. Okay, like so the thing is, if people who claim to be possessed,
but there was Muslim.
have a platform, okay?
There was Muslim shit in there too.
Right, so they're going to have a platform. Now, if someone says I've been possessed and they start spreading a lot of Muslim stuff, then they're spreading a Muslim platform, right? If they do the same thing and they start spreading Christian stuff, then it's Christian, but both can't be true, right? So you know what I mean? Like both can't be true. So the thing is, a lot of what she was saying,
It was
I
a
definitely
mixture.
noticed that
It was a
about what she
mixture.
said.
It was definitely a mixture. He talked about Samuel being the son of Allah.
Yeah, and Samael is the son of Allah, but only in Islam. So that's the interesting thing, is that like Samael is a feature in Judaism, Samael is a feature in Christianity, but literally Samael is only the son of Allah in Islam. So this woman either has like knowledge of most religions, or and she either has knowledge of most religions, names of demons, and she like thinks that God is interacting with her, and she's deliberately covering it up using human names. Either it's like this super elaborate case of deliberately trying to act like she's demonically possessed, or to some degree, aside from any background mental health issues, she did have at least one demonic possession going on. The latter was my belief. And so now I've got Monly Bands trying to tell me that if any harm comes to her or her children, it's my fault.
Well, no, that's not necessarily the case. The one thing I was going to ask was, we do have video on here, and at any point was the camera turned on? Were you looking for any signs of maggots or other sort of detritus that was expelled from the body? Because that would have given you a much better, idea of what was really going on. Why didn't you do that?
Wow. All right,
Why
Panda,
didn't you do that?
Are you making fun of me, bro? You're making fun of me, bro. That's funny.
I don't think maggots
No.
have anything to do with the like exorcism.
No,
of
no.
you.
Well, he was saying that sometimes things are
I
expelled
said
from the body.
one time
about
I had a
semen?
woman expel maggots from the body. Yeah,
Right.
just the once.
Right. So the frequency doesn't really matter. That is the case that could happen. So what you should do is probably get her to turn the camera on next time.
So
Look for detritus.
if 1 in 62 times, so according to your model, if 1 in 62 times I have the presence of detritus, every other time I should measure for the presence of detritus.
Was that what I said?
Apparently, yeah.
No, not apparently. Was that what I said? No, you were the one that brought up the thing about the maggots. No, you're saying there are other external signs. What are these other external signs that you see? Visual signs.
Yeah, so Eggbase, can I ask you a question about that? So, what are the limitations of doing an exorcism, like where you're unable to actually like see
Online,
your,
right.
see the individual, or what limitations does that place on you, and what are you
You
still able to
literally,
do?
they
The
literally
radio
placed
format
none.
exorcism is quite an old-fashioned idea. How come you haven't
No.
moved it into the other forms with video, right? What other ways?
So
like Twitter feeds?
like Ray Panda. So the thing about it is that most of what it involves is actually just the transfer of energy. So like my words are imbued with a certain frequency. You program those by writing an exorcism, right?
Wait,
And then
when you
all
say
you have to do is all you have to do is all you have to do is all you have to do is deliver that formula. So the formula that I was delivering was a verbal one. I can deliver a verbal formula in any way that my voice can be transmitted and heard.
Right.
I know it's
biblically
not in the Bible. You know what else is not in
where
the
is
Bible?
Right. So the Abrahamic explanation
derived?
You know what else?
the only way an
You know what
exorcism
else
can
is?
be performed is by God's will. So you have to defer to God. You cannot say that it's your energy going through the airwaves. Basically, if you have to defer to God, otherwise
That's what I did.
Digital transcription.
Were you not listening? That's what I did.
Is this how it works?
It's a digital exorcism. It's very
Apple Dog. Were you not? Were you not listening to me saying that the only authority that I had was the authority of God, and I named him by all the names and powers and principalities?
When you say frequency and energy, what kind of energy and frequency of what?
My only interest is, do you think this is going to stand up in court if you go to court for manslaughter if she kills anyone?
Yeah, Monly, that's enough.
Exactly.
That's never going to happen.
No, that's a
She's not going to self-harm. That's not likely at all. You're a fucking idiot,
I'm
Apple.
I'm loving
I
that.
hope you get permanently banned for the bullshit you
Monly,
just
and
pulled.
you're in the religion channel. So
I don't give a fucking shit, mate. You're a complete cunt.
Yeah, Monly, it
Monly,
must be hard to be
stop
such a
being real
miserable bastard, dude. It must be really
Well, don't
difficult.
worry. But let's stick to the signs. So
Yeah,
some
let's
of the
stick to the
visual signs
subject.
that you say. Let's stick. So one of the signs was maggots. What other visual symptoms are these demons manifesting in?
Oh, and also, Apple Dog, I think for the record, it needs to be clarified that Monly Bands thinks I was muting people.
It's not really important. Let's not get into the meta of the muting. It's kind of boring. So what other visual manifestations do you see? Well, we don't need, let's not.
So Ray Panda, a lot of the time
it's
it's
main person here doing it.
Ray Panda. A lot of the time it's completely invisible because it's a spiritual phenomena. So your obsession seems to be centered around the physical manifestation of the metaphysical, and that's just a fool's errand. There's often going to be no physical manifestation of it.
But sometimes it's maggots. But what are it's the only one you've ever seen is maggots?
Ray Panda, take your physicalist bullshit somewhere else, man.
Yeah, I would probably say the
now
same
we see
thing.
them. Now we see the goof troop running interference.
Yeah, I would say, like, if you're just going to ask me about physical manifestations, then even any information you do acquire is going to have no relevance to the broader phenomena. So I'd ask, like, why are you even bothering with this line of inquiry?
Personally, I don't believe in any physical manifestation like that. But
You can't make it up on the spot.
So egg based. Can I ask you? So regarding the references that she mentioned during the exorcism and stuff, were any inaccurate or were they accurate references? And what did you think about like the names and things that she was invoking? Can you just give us a little summary or overview of that?
So they were accurate. The problem is she invoked a lot of names that are really common for like smaller demons to be like, oh yeah, I'm this guy. Like you'll have some woman who's possessed by some lesser spirit, and it'll be like, yes, I'm Lucifer. And it's like, well, I know for a matter of fact that you're not. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's obvious. Yeah.
why don't you try and tell me something else? And then it'll be like, oh well, I'm Peter or Joe. And at some point it was like, no, I could be Moses or Abraham. And I was like, well, you're none of those things. And then eventually she started actually giving me names. So you sort of have to cut through a lot of bullshit before you get to the point where the
Who was
demons are like
Amiga?
So
straight
did you end
talking.
up getting? Did you end up getting the 3 that you wanted? I kind of missed that. Or did
Yeah,
she only give you
I
2?
did. I did actually get the 3 names that I wanted. I'm not going to repeat them, but I did get them.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so the
So
other
who was
question I have
Amiga?
is, if you were to kind of give yourself a self-evaluation or report card by the end of it, would you say that you were successful? And can you describe her mental, psychological, spiritual state at the beginning and at the end? And what evidence, or I mean, can you or tell us like how much has she improved, and what do you think actually happened? Or yeah, just kind of give us a report card. And now, and at this point, she's not here right now, right? But what do you think her mental and spiritual state is at this point?
So I'm going to be honest with you. Usually these things go on a lot longer, and I think it was a combo move by Apple Dog and Belisarius to remove me from the channel, mute me, and interrupt the conversation. And so it like towards the end, I was actually making a lot of progress. You could hear that at some point she actually said, "If you think this is going to work, and it will, then I just want you to know that these children," and then she went on about how she needs to make sure her children will be taken care of. But because I think for some reason the spirit that was manifesting thinks that it's responsible for her children and maybe they're also possessed. But so it could be a case of a demonic infestation, like if she brought like a Ouija board into the home and they've been playing around with it or something. I've seen cases like that where like a whole family has just been tied up in this negative issue. But as I said sort of earlier when we were talking about what I was actually trying to accomplish, there was there was a second personality in there that she had said. I don't know how well you were paying attention, but you'll recall she said something about how she had like 10 husbands and all of them left. Usually when it says husbands, they're
Right. Yeah,
referencing
that was
spirits that they have a relationship with. They all left, but one of them stayed.
Mhm.
And that one that stayed was the one that I was trying to deal with and exercise. So I wasn't really trying to deal with much else, although there was a lot else that I could have been trying to deal with, but it wasn't my goal and it wasn't my place. But I also didn't really have time. I basically was like, okay, one thing at a time here. To be clear, because I got cut off, I'm not sure if that spirit actually left. It was talking about how it was willing to, and then I got cut off. So
Okay, fair enough. So I'll tell you from my personal belief system. I know there's actually difference of opinions even among Muslims. Some Muslims actually do believe in demonic possession, just like Christians, right? Or many Christians. I shouldn't say all Christians. I personally don't subscribe to that notion. I don't believe that that's possible, but I do believe that it's possible for an individual to become so depraved or so sinful or like far from God, where I do believe that there are jinns or whatever that whisper suggestions into our subconscious. Like we all have like a devil or something that can tell us the wrong thing to do. But so a person could become so depraved that they voluntarily listen, to whatever the devil or demon tells them, but like subconsciously. But I don't believe that somebody is actually physically overpowered such that like a spirit is like has taken over their body and is speaking for them and all that stuff. I don't believe that. But let me ask you, since you do subscribe to that worldview, right? During that entire interaction, at what points would you say it was Lily speaking, and at what points would you say that it was the demon speaking to you on VC?
So Aziz, it's interesting. So you may notice that spirits in general, like if you're paying attention, sometimes people speak like. Have you ever done like performances or like competitions? like as a musician or a
Not
performer or an athlete or something?
not recently.
Okay, but in general in your life you have. So
Yeah.
have you gone into something like that and experienced like what could be called sort of a blackout, where you like went into a trance and then after the performance you like got into the zone, and then after the performance you had trouble remembering what transpired during that event?
Well, at some martial arts competitions and stuff, but I don't. I
Right, you're
mean,
right.
sometimes
So
like
we
it's
all
hard to remember exactly the moment that
I'm
doing it.
just
Yeah,
trying to
but
give you
not
an
exactly
example.
that.
I'm just
Sure,
trying to
sure.
give you an example.
Or
So
like when you're driving
normal
somewhere.
things like that happen all the time with normal people's normal spiritual health. So when you're dealing with the case of a second unwelcome personality inside of someone, the problem that you encounter is that there is the human, there is the human's spirit, and then there is the third spirit. So usually the transition goes like this. When it starts, sometimes the person's already in a trance when I come to them. Like in this case, I was talking about Nelson like accused me of saying that I was capable of exorcisms.
You're a total
I
fraud.
was like,
of the Antichrist, dude.
yes, I am capable of exorcisms. He was like, well, there's somebody up here who needs an exorcism. So I went up there. Sometimes they're already in a trance, but usually the transition goes from like the brain speaking to the human spirit speaking to the demon speaking. Sometimes I get in there and it's already the demon speaking. But generally, demons are flashy, proud, they want to be heard, they want to tell a story. So the majority of the time that I was in there with Lily, it was some fight between her brain trying to like rationalize and deal with emotion and the demon trying to, tell me. Because you remember at the beginning that she was like, don't fuck this up. I'm just going to tell you this. Don't fuck this up. Like, it's not the first time I've been warned by a spirit, like, oh, well, you better stay away and be careful, because if you don't, like, some bad shit might happen to you, or whatever. But, yeah, so I'd say the majority of the time I successfully had the spirit talking to me, and then there was some of the time where it was Lily, like, having a moment of clarity. I do need to quickly use the bathroom, so give me, like, 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
Well, I was talking to them at like 10 a.m. today with some other people. And look, like, I mean, I believe in all that stuff, but even the Catholic Church is going to say that 99% of the time, like, it's mental illness. And I don't know, I don't know
I
why we
wanted to
shut the
jump
door
in
on
and
that.
ask
Why
that
can't it?
question. How
Yeah,
do we
Matthew.
know for a fact she wasn't simply mentally insane?
I mean,
At
I was talking to
first,
her
at
this
first I
morning,
thought it
and
was
she
an
was saying
exorcism.
that she was
But
like,
later on, I thought it was mental illness.
she was saying that
Yeah,
Lily wasn't talking and that Eve was talking, and she was just going on about like random stuff. And we actually muted
yeah.
her because she was just like raving.
Yeah, personally, I think a lot of that is like like psychiatric or psychological or whatever, or like it's sort of internal things. I mean, my view is a little bit. I would say I don't subscribe to demonic possession, so I don't actually believe that that occurs. But it's not. I'm also not an atheist, and like don't I believe in the existence of devils or whatever. So I think what might have been happening from my perspective as a Muslim is that, again, if she may have mental illness, she may have drug like substance abuse history, she may have a lot of things going on, so problems in her lifetime, or like home situation, whatever, abuse. Who knows what the heck is going on in her lifetime, right? And some people, do become a little crazy, with all that stuff. But also, it is possible if somebody, in my view, somebody's very far from God, if they become very, what's the word? Very ungrateful, and then they just start blaming, or become very extremely sinful in their lifestyle and stuff. They can reach a state where, again, they're choosing to do everything is ultimately their choice, but their devil is basically tempting them, or basically whatever the devil tells them to do, they're just like, yeah, whatever, they just kind of follow along with it. So in that situation, she may be having an internal dialogue with herself. Now personally, I don't believe that at any point in that VC conversation there was a demon speaking through her. I don't believe that at all. But
Okay.
but I do think it's possible the devil could have been telling her stuff, and then she just maybe just repeats it or whatever, or
Yeah,
she's having that
here's
internal
here's my
struggle.
question, Aziz.
But, uh-huh.
How immediately does she have to be repeating the devil's words before the devil is speaking through her? How much of her own personal will does she have to surrender to demonic influence before she is possessed?
Well,
Because what I would describe, and Aziz, I think what you're talking about is some idea of the Christian concept of demonic possession. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clarify it a little bit because I don't think you're as hostile to it as you think you are. So what I generally deal with is people who have had a demonic influence turn into like a whispering, and then they have followed that whispering, and it has gotten stronger and stronger until they literally see it as their own thoughts, until they literally accept it as the way they ought to live their lives, or even sometimes they accept it as some sort of holy guidance. They say, "Oh, God is speaking to me." Those people
Right.
are who I call possessed, but really all
Okay.
they are is they've just surrendered their will, their autonomy, and their freedom of thought to this demonic influence. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
that position is not that far from my position. Yeah, now
Good.
that
Yeah,
you've
that's
given
what I
that
thought. That's what I
yeah,
thought.
now that you've given that nuance and stuff, I don't think that's too far off. I mean, from my position, the only thing is, but where I differ, or like maybe not necessarily with you, but just with the concept of the exorcism and like demonic possession. Um, like the 100% I agree with you on the whisper part, and if and it can become stronger, and the more depraved or more a person gets, the more they listen to it, or the more they close to it. But at the end of the day, like my view, but there is but fundamentally philosophically there is a huge difference, even in that point, right? I mean, the delta time, it could be short or it could be long. Like again, you talk about how long, before the devil tells you to do something and you say it. Well, even if it's like a half a second, or 100 milliseconds, or it could be 2 seconds, or whatever the delta t is, right? That's still at the end of the day, the primary agent is the human being, is the individual. That person has their own soul and their own spirit. There's not like another
Yeah,
soul that has
yeah.
entered their body and taken over. And so like what I reject, I'll tell you, is the concept that like a demon could possess someone and physically make them do things. So like for example, when a person is like screaming and yelling, or like the stories about they're speaking suddenly magically in different languages, or that the demon can
No,
like
I've
make
had
you
I've
tilt
had
or like
people
thrash
speak
around and stuff. So
I'm
I don't
sorry.
I
I've
reject
had
that.
people speak
Yeah.
in fluent Greek. I've had people speak in fluent Assyrian. I've actually had people speak Hebrew who were not Jews. I had some white girl from Mississippi speak ancient Greek to me,
Well,
and like growl ancient Greek at me. And this was a woman, and
It's good
I
that you
actually
knew those
this was
languages as well.
no, this was
okay, so
this
so
was
I can respond to that, but
extensive.
go ahead. Yeah, I have a
So
response to that.
this was extensive. Like I was contacted by this woman's family. Like she had no history of mental illness. And then she just like started at some point and slowly got worse until she wasn't eating. She was tearing the skin off her arms with her fingernails and speaking in ancient Greek.
What was she
So,
saying in ancient Greek?
oh, I mean, I don't know ancient Greek well enough to tell you
Oh,
exactly
but
what she
you
was
knew
saying.
it. You
That's
just knew
the
it
But
well
issue, bro.
enough to
Okay.
know. No, that
So
makes
how
sense.
do you know
but
if it's
Okay, I
ancient
want to
Greek?
respond to that.
I
Yeah,
did know it
I
well
have a lot
enough
to
to
say
know
about
it
that.
was ancient Greek.
I
Yeah.
mean,
You
that's
knew
Okay,
it
so
fair.
well.
okay,
You
yeah,
knew
yeah. So
these
I can,
ancient languages well enough to know that she was saying them, but not to recall any of it. Or okay, that
yeah,
makes
that's
perfect sense.
problematic.
I
So
mean,
X-Base, let
Red,
me
that's
respond
not
to you on that. So I'll
problematic.
tell you
Look,
why
I
I
don't think
reject
it's
that concept.
problematic. Do I
no,
have to be
Okay.
that's
fluent in ancient Greek to recognize that she's speaking ancient Greek?
Yeah. So X-based. Okay. So no, this is problematic. I'll tell you why. So I don't believe that occurs. Now, so here's my critique of it. Number one, it's anecdotal in terms of like you're telling us now again
They're all going to
again
be
for that to be
anecdotes,
true.
Aziz.
Sure. But for that to be true, and by the way, at the end of this, I don't want you to feel like I'm going to be totally bashing you, because I think what you did, it may have actually had some benefit for her. And after we're done, I'll tell you what that benefit I think is. So I'm not here to just bash you, okay? I just want you to know that. But when it comes to the speaking in other languages, so I don't believe that, because again, I mean, it might be true, but again, personally, I've never seen evidence of that. And always like every time I've seen it, like it's always an anecdotal evidence, like somebody's telling a story or whatever. It's never been recorded or whatever. And in the case for you to verify that, right? Like somebody speaking in another language, number one, it has to be actually coherent, logical language. It can't be just a few random words that they heard or that they kind of repeat, because that can happen, right? You may be watching like a TV show or whatever, and you fall asleep, or something. You have a discussion, then you dream about it, right? Your mind tends to reorganize that stuff and put it out again. So with other languages, you have to look to see, are they just kind of regurgitating a few phrases that they heard, maybe mixing it up? And for you to accurately identify it, you have to actually know that language. And for it to be like real, like can you have a conversation, or at least to some degree, and have that person show to you that they know Assyrian or Greek? You can't identify that because you don't know those like ancient languages, right? And it might sound like it to you, But so that's my critique of the language thing. I was gonna say something else about it. Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead. Let me think.
I
I
mean,
forgot my point. I
so
forgot
we've
my
gotten
point.
to
Go
the
ahead.
point where you're building a case for my dishonesty, right? So like it's so because it's your only escape from like you either have to accept anecdotal evidence or point out how it could possibly be falsified.
No,
So like
it's not your dishonesty. No, I feel
yeah,
like
no,
I think you're
but
mistaken about
not
it.
not
Like
not
you
not
heard
that
something, you were mistaken.
you're not trying to prove that I'm being dishonest. You're
Mhm.
trying to establish why you don't have to accept anecdotal evidence. And
Right.
basically, the key is the possibility of dishonesty. Because if
No,
I
no,
were
that's not the key.
if I were
Yeah.
theoretically a perfect reporter and everything I said were true, you'd have to accept it. So you need to establish that that isn't the case, and that's fine.
Right.
But
No, there's several things.
we're now debating about the rigor of things that happened to me and didn't happen to you, and it just seems circular.
I mean, to some extent it is, but I'm just saying that like there's several criteria. Number one, the person has to be an honest reporter. Again, I'm not commenting about you personally. I can't say that you're honest or dishonest or whatever, but I'm not saying that you're
But you
dishonest.
couldn't
But
know.
Right. No, I don't know whether you're honest or dishonest, but I'm not accusing you of being dishonest. Number two, like about what you reported. Number two, but it's also about like again those other criteria I mentioned that you have to actually know the language to be able to recognize in the person, and the person has to be like actually like able to speak the language in a coherent fashion and not simply throw out a few words that sound like it or maybe some type of jarble, garbled whatever. So those are other issues. I don't believe that actually occurs. That that like the demon can actually take physical control and do those types of things. What
Okay.
was that?
Well, I didn't
Why not?
either for a long time. It took me a long time of like believing it without having seen it before I actually started getting cases where that was happening. So I don't blame you,
Yeah.
and I think everybody's life is going to be a lot more peaceful if they do not believe that demons take control of human beings. So I'm perfectly fine with that.
I mean, look, like you believe, at least you seemingly do, that demons eat poop and eat people's bones. So why wouldn't you believe that they can take control of people? It seems kind of weird. So why I don't understand why they wouldn't
Well,
be able to.
Oh, you're
Catholics believe
talking to
that
me.
too, right?
Oh, I didn't realize you were
Beelzebub's
talking to me.
Lord of the Flies. Flies eat poop, so Beelzebub eats poop,
No,
right?
Yeah, so
I've
Matthew,
never
that
heard
doesn't
from
follow at
any
all.
like
That's a total non sequitur.
demonologists.
Yeah, Matthew, I'm sorry, that is a total non sequitur.